Well, welcome everybody to Forever Bristol City podcast. The final scorer, I'm going to call it Loftus Road. It finished QPR 1, Bristol City 1. I'm joined by regular Dave Tovey and a very good friend of mine for very many years, Steve Jones. Steve is a Thatcham Town or United?
Thatcham Town.
Thatcham Town supporter. So he's dragged himself away from watching them today to watch the game. And Dave was watching it over in sunny Spain. Dave, what were your thoughts on the final whistle?
Not every performance in the championship is champagne, rainbows and butterflies. And sometimes it's about what you do when you're off your game. And the reality is that from the 25th minute onwards, we saw that our spectrum between average and good had closed massively. What you saw was a team that was a few steps below the ladder from previous games. The swagger wasn't there. Shall we say the vibes were slightly missing. But what you also saw a team progressing towards the playoffs, fighting for the playoffs. The traffic below us might be building. The margin is slim, but it's ours to lose now. And how can you not be pleased with that?
Steve, you've not seen Bristol City this season. We watched a lot of Reading Bristol City games over the years. What were your thoughts on it as a championship football match compared to where are Thatcham? Is it tier 6?
Yeah, step 4, please.
Step 4.
Don't be so disrespectful. I thought for the first 25 minutes that Bristol City weren't even in it. I didn't think they played at all well. But after they scored the equaliser, I thought they played. I thought the result was a fair result based on the way that they played.
Okay, that's fair. Dave, before we talk about the team, it's often been said, you play on a Tuesday, playing against a team that played on a Wednesday. On this occasion, we were the team that had the extra day recovery. Does it really make a difference, an extra day? And QPR, the way they came out the traps, you think they haven't played for about a month.
It does and it doesn't make a difference because momentum is a big part of football. They came flying out of like you said, of the traps like a team that had just won. They were hard to live with, and for that first 25 minutes, they deserve a lot of credit. We might not have been on top of our game, but they played exceptionally well with rapid, sharp movements. And I actually think they made us look worse than we really were in that first 25 minutes. And then kind of once we did get the goal, you saw the momentum and the balloon pop. And then we kind of took control of the game, and we deserve a lot of credit for that. So it does make a difference, but it doesn't make a difference because that's kind of what squads are for.
What do you think about extra days recovery? Because teams sort of this Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday, but if it's Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday, does it make a difference?
These people are supposed to be professional athletes. They can't play a few games of football in a week. And I know that probably won't be a popular point of view, but that's what they're paid for.
Yeah, and they're young lads anyway, aren't they? They're all in their 20s. Dave, we had a little bit of two injuries or two blows. No Mark Sykes and Neil sent me a text. Neil Sutton sent me a text and said Max went over on his ankle, and we ended up with two substitute goalkeepers. What did you think of that? What you saw of it from afar?
Well, I thought it was interesting that we had a third keeper on the bench and we hadn't maybe taken more members of the squad. I mean, I don't think Cornick was on the bench, was he? He wasn't, and Morrison, thank you. He wasn't there either. So maybe there's a slight error to look at there in terms of future games and taking more players than you need. In terms of the bringing on you have to remember that he played there against Sheffield United and he played very well. So from an attacking perspective, he can do more than a job there. For Max, it was slightly worrying because that's probably our weakest area in terms of backup. And what got me is at the beginning of the game, too often we're passing it back to him, and you can see every time he kicks, he's slightly limping. I'm hoping it seems to be adrenaline that's got him through the game, but I do wonder if he'll be fit for the next game because he didn't look mobile. He didn't look like he was fully fit for the whole game. So it's a credit to him that he made it, but we may have some concerns there going forward.
Steve, you don't know any of the City players individually or what have you, but the manager here hasn't been given the academy players any minutes worthy of the name, or worthy of that description. Do you think, and we're split between some of us on this panel in previous podcasts, do you think it's right to name a youngster to fill the bench, to give them experience, even though you're not going to play them, or what?
But I think it can be probably more demoralising if you've got people and they're just bench warmers. I'm not sure that's a great idea. But if you can, I mean, if you look at Reading, about the only thing that kept them afloat was their academy. Mm. And if it wasn't for the fact that they had the academy players coming through, they would have been bankrupt years ago.
Mm-hmm. And coming back to you, Dave, on that, Morrison, he has been a bench warmer for 20 odd games or so, not had, and other than that 20 minutes against Leeds, he's not really had anything. It can't be a good season for him, can it? Because he's not playing for the under-21s either, is he?
Look, from a personal point of view, I don't think that his time has been managed well going forward. But there comes a certain point in the season where that question is no longer a question, because you're not going to throw him in the deep end. And at the end of the day, right now, we are 5th place in the league. So it's difficult to say, oh, you should have done this, you should have done this. This may be an issue going into next season, when eventually you'll want to see him having game time. But right now, it's difficult to question the methods when we are where we are. And over the last month or so, we've been playing such entertainment football. I think it's nitpicking a little bit to be saying, oh, Morrison should be there right now. You know, because I think that if we had fallen away a bit, he'd probably be getting more game time. But where we are is win now mode. And the performances until that first 25 minutes have been up there. So I find it hard to criticise in the last month, to be honest.
Yeah, no, fair comment. Let's look at the action in the game, Dave, and I'll stay with you on that. I mean, Phillips, excuse me, that's going back a few years. Max was clearly in some difficulty, but he kept us in it with a couple of saves very early on, didn't he? Both with his legs, a deflective shot that he saved, and then another one after Ashby got a good strike on goal.
Am I right in thinking that both managers, that was their first game when we played away last year? It was definitely Manning's first game, and I think it was their manager's first game as well. And I was interested to see the difference in how we played. And if you look at QPR and what they were trying to do, it was playing out from the back as an obsession, just like we used to be. But we have evolved from that to be playing in different ways. And I think that our biggest error at times at the beginning was going back to Max too often. And he nearly got caught in possession at one point because he just wasn't 100% fit, and he was kind of learning to trust his body again. On the flip side of it, they had 2 or 3 chances in that opening 25 minutes. Obviously, they scored one of them. And there were a couple of others where I think their left back, a really, really poor finish and a sharp save. But we just weren't at the races. Our press wasn't quite sharp. We weren't quite on the ball. Knight and Williams weren't dictating the tempo. It was almost, shall we say, a wake-up call. And I would like to think that 25 minutes is going to really help us going forward, because that's what happens when you're off it at this level. You can't drop off, and nothing is done yet. Because the moment we got possession in the 25th minute, the whole game changed. Yeah. It was almost like, there you are, guys. And the whole tempo of the match changed from there. So I hope that's a lesson learned, and we take the lessons and we take the point and we move on.
Yeah, Steve, with you commented how sharp QPR were in the opening stages, and teams like to play possession football. Tom, who works for me, he plays at a decent standard. I think it's 2 levels below Thatcham. And he's not enjoyed his football this season because he's got a manager that is playing possession, and I'll call it budget pet style. At Thatcham and at that level, do you see teams trying to emulate pet style of football, but without the players who've got the skill to do it?
Well, I haven't seen that. I think the trouble is at that level is if you've got a decent goal scorer and a decent goalie, you win. And if you haven't, however good your outfield players are, you don't win. Thatcham are probably going to get relegated this season. And they lost, I know this is not about Bristol, but they lost 4-1 to Yates. And I looked at it, I thought, this isn't a 4-1 game. They didn't deserve to lose 4-1. And the thing I like about non-league football, well, particularly Thatcham Town, is the players, they give it their best shot. You could win, lose or draw, you could never say that the guys didn't turn up and put a shift in. That's what I particularly like about it.
That's good about that, Dave.
What I did think was interesting today, and I said it at the beginning, was you can see how the spectrum is closed, because when you do play out from the back like that and it's going well, like it was for QPR in the first 25 minutes, it looks great. But when it stops working, all of a sudden you aren't so effective. All of a sudden the other team is the one dictating play. And basically the spectrum is massive. What you saw from us today is a team that didn't necessarily play well, weren't fully at the races, and yet once you got over that first 25 minutes, were more than competitive in the game without being at their best. And that is what every football fan wants when they watch their team, because you can't expect magic every time. It just doesn't work like that. And that was the most impressive thing for me today.
No, I think you're 100% right, that because the City team of 2 years ago, or within the last 4 or 5 years, they might have come out of that 25-minute period 2 goals down, and then you've got a little bit of a mountain to climb there. Let's talk about the goal then that QPR got for their efforts, and fully deserving of it. Came on 20 minutes. A bad goal to concede defensively, Dave?
It was a poor goal for lots of reasons. Credit to them, they were sharp, they were rapid, they were moving the ball. We were like rabbits in a headlight. People didn't really know where they want to be. And ultimately, the final part of it comes down to the fact that Yu is not a right wing back, and he just doesn't know how to defend in that situation. And let's face it, he was essentially marking the smallest guy on the pitch, who has no right to win a free header there. But Yu is not necessarily equipped to do his job there. And it's a very poor goal to concede. But at the same time, I've come to understand, Syke, Yu, these guys are playing there to offer us something going forward. That kind of goal is the price you pay for having that attacking instinct in the side. So yes, it's poor, but it's kind of got us to where we are in the last month or so.
But that's what you said at the time, Dave, wasn't it? They're marking the smallest bloke on the pitch, and he got a free header.
Yeah, and the ball went over Zach's head as well. It does beg the question, Dave, with who was available on the bench, though, that George Tanner, he's good on the right side in a 4, but he can play wing back as well, and he offers the height. Now, maybe he's not fit enough to do a full 90 minutes yet.
You could have also put Roberts at left wing back, pushed Pring on, put McCrory on the right. There were many other options, and it's fair to argue but by Manning making those decisions puts you in that decision to make that error. But at the same time, having you on the right-hand side was why we were so successful at Sheffield United. And you can't have it both ways. He was successful there. That was the reward. Today was the risk of it. And over a season, you get judged on whether it pays off or not. Overall, having an attacking fullback has paid off on the right. Today is one of the prices. It will be interesting to see hopefully it won't be too interesting to see where it goes forward, because we really do not want to lose Sykes. In my opinion, he's one of our most important players. McCrory is the heartbeat, but Sykes gives us everything going forward. He creates the space because he is a danger, and he doesn't allow opposition to settle at any point because he's got a goal in him, he's got a cross in him, and he is essentially our danger man when it comes to speed.
No, that's interesting. I mean, we winced just after the goal because their fullback Dunn hit a volley, and I thought that was going to be ripping in the back of the net.
It looked like it.
It did, didn't it? Yeah. I mean, you've been to Loftus Road, I bet, in the past, haven't you? Behind that goal, I mean, it's sort of like you're almost looking down onto a Subutio pitch behind there, aren't you?
I think Benny in the chat makes a very interesting point where he says it's a Zach error, and just to respond to that, I can understand why it looks, or at least to many people would say it's a Zach error, but I think it's one of those things where people are trying to consistently plug holes because we're under so much pressure. People are trying to get where they are, and in that moment, as a fullback, you've got to know to tuck in. You can't just say, "Oh, there's their attacking player. Let's just leave him." You've got to get in front or behind your man and stop him winning that header. And you needs to do more because he's the guy that can see everything. If he thinks that Zach is out of position, it's on him to get in position. Centre backs need to be winning the crosses, but when they don't, your fullback has to be there, and that's why for me it's a you error, not so much a Zach one.
Fair enough. Well, we got an equaliser, Dave, on 29 minutes, and it was a goal that epitomised how City have been playing in this good run over the last couple of months. Take us through it as you saw it.
So 25 minutes in, we finally get our foot on the ball. We often criticise this side for horseshoe football, but context is everything. In that moment, it was taking a breather. It was establishing yourself within the game. And over that course of that 3 minutes, it was the first period where we were on top. And once we had the ball, there was a frustration of, well, for me, it was, okay, who's going to go in? Who's going to go in behind? Who's going to go in looking behind? But it was patient. It was movement. You'd had McCory tuck inside slightly, making a run. And then from there, we have two attacking midfielders doing what they do best. You have Bird with the incisive, imaginative pass, and you have Earthy, who's full of confidence, finding space where there is none. And in my opinion, that combination, they are a fantastic combination to watch because they produced a moment of magic. And we've been under the cosh until that moment, but it shows what we are as a football team. We didn't just cave. Yes, they could have maybe scored 2 or 3 goals, but it was, okay, you're going to leave the door open. And boy, did we smash through it.
You thought that was a good goal as well, Steve.
Yeah,
It was a classy finish,
it was a cracking goal. Yeah, it was well taken. It was a great goal.
And against the run of play, though, you said. Well, clearly it was, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, Earthy, I said to you, he's on loan to us from West Ham. When Reading got promoted under Steve Coppell in the early 2000s and later Brian McDermott, did they ever make use of loan players from Premiership clubs or not really?
When they got promoted in 2005-06 under Coppell, they started the season in the Premiership with the same team virtually that they had in the Championship, and they were a great team. They weren't necessarily fantastic individuals, but a bit like Ferguson, he picked a great team. When they were promoted with McDermott, they lost a load of players. And I remember that season, they got walloped game after game after game. It was horrible to watch. But, I mean, the first season they got promoted under Coppell, they were unlucky not to end up in Europe.
Yeah, because they kept that side together. A bit like Alan Dix did 40 years prior to that, back in the...
David, I have a question for you. Where do you consider Bird's best position at this moment? Do you think it's an attacking midfield position or more a central defensive midfield?
I think it's attacking. I think he's linking up well with Earthy. So I think it's further up the pitch with Williams and Knight, excuse me, doing all the grafting at the back. I have to say, I thought Jason Knight didn't have his best game today. He looked like it was his third game in 8 days, and he's been inspirational for us. If you look at the amount of closing down he's done in fixtures recently, I mean, he's been running around like a dervish, but today I thought it was one of his quiet games. Anyway, we're going at half time. Sorry, Dave.
I actually agree with you. Today was one of his poorer games, but him and Williams were instrumental in turning it round because the difference was they may have been quieter, but they understood the need to keep possession and keep on the ball. Because if you notice today, in one way it's a negative, in one way it's a positive. Gone were the dummies, gone were the sharp turns. Sometimes you have to recognize when you're not on the game. And today was about keeping the ball, being patient with it and trying to insert your dominance. I had a look in the 80th minute and we hadn't had a shot in that moment in the second half. But because we'd had so much possession and kind of run them down a bit, all of a sudden they started to make mistakes. Look at the one with Wales. Look at the one with the Bell header. Nothing came off, but you could also argue if we had scored a second goal, we probably would have deserved it in the second half because we were the better side.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. We get into those second half.
Sorry,
jumping ahead. Start of the second half, there were 2 incidents when QPR were attacking their favoured end. No handball when Dickie's arm was in an unnatural position, and then no foul on Cato, not to be confused with the...
No, Cato was the one in the Pink Panther.
Cato was the one in the Pink Panther, right. Whatever their similar sounding player was. Steve, VAR, obviously, it's not in the Championship yet, but they were saying, the commentary team was saying if that had been in the Premier League, they'd have had a look at that and a penalty might have been given. How did you see it? What's your view on VAR?
Well, it's possible that a penalty would have been given, but I don't think VAR's done us any favours at all. The referees generally play an honest game. They call it as they see it. Sometimes they make mistakes. Players make mistakes. Goalies make mistakes. Referees make mistakes. And I'm not really, if the referees continually make mistakes, we should get them off the refereeing panel.
Yeah, well, David Error is one to blame for the quality of referees. It was interesting talking about referees as well. I think it was on TalkSport I was listening that there's been a whole crop of experienced referees in the last couple of years that have reached the end of their time, and they're being replaced by younger ones that maybe haven't got obviously they haven't got the experience. But what did you think about that handball scenario today? And we thought the player who went down, we thought he should have got booked for simulation. But what did you think of those two?
Well, I have to say, in the last few weeks, I don't know how long, but I don't remember the last game where we had a poor referee. I think the standard has been pretty good over the last month or so. I don't remember the last game I was annoyed. Maybe someone in the chat can remember one where we had a terrible ref, but I felt like in the last few games, the refs have been generally decent. And I tend to have quite a high threshold when it comes to penalties. I didn't think either of them were even close. The handball one, I'm not really sure. I don't know if it did hit his hand, but I don't know what Dickie's meant to do. And for the other one, I wouldn't necessarily say it was a dive. I just think it's the fact that there was maybe a bit of contact in the box. Yes, he was probably looking for it, but it's nothing close to a penalty. And I hope referees keep doing this, because if they keep not giving it when they look for it, maybe players will stop looking for it. And it's something that I've criticized us for doing in the past with Twine, with Tanner the other night. And it's annoying because they're so bad at it. You can literally see, oh my God, he's like, he's falling down. There was some contact there, but it's not a penalty.
Substitutions coming for us on 58 and 73 minutes, two double substitutions. The first one's Tanner and Mehmeti coming on from McCrory and you. Predictable, Dave?
I don't want to be critical as such, but I actually felt like it was some poor substitutes from Manning, and it nearly cost us a goal. And the reason is because too much happened. There were too many changes. Like Tanner was the right of the three, which meant Viner went to the left, Pring further forward, Urfi to right wing back. That's a lot of movement, plus bringing Mehmeti on. And the result of it is, while we are in the adjusting phase, Earthy makes a ridiculous, well, not a ridiculous, silly mistake, and it could have cost us a goal. After that, we had settled, but I felt that Manning did too much in one go in terms of movement, and we were lucky not to pay the price.
Yeah, you commented on Earthy. He got himself in all sorts of problems. He'd been switched back there. Again, playing in a position that he's not natural, but, they should have done better with that QPR, shouldn't they?
Yeah, definitely, absolutely.
And then 15 minutes later, because there wasn't a great deal happening, our flurry of activity, when, as you said a moment ago, Dave, maybe we might have taken away all 3 points, but Bird and Earthy coming off to be replaced by Twine and Bell. Now, I'm not Sam Bell's greatest fan, as people might have picked up over the weeks. I thought he did okay when he came on. But Dave, what did you think of Twine? I guess we were hoping maybe he was going to get one of those free kick situations on the edge of the box, which never happened.
For the two, I think in terms of Bell, I think there's a conversation to be had about would he gain the same benefits that Earthy's had from a run in the side? Because he can be hit and miss. There are certain games where he offers something, and there are other games where you feel like he should be nowhere near the side. And I don't think that it helps that he's being played left wing back, right wing back, sometimes up front, and number 10 in one game. It can't be easy to get a run, and look what's happened to Earthy. Bell has to earn that opportunity, but I kind of feel sorry for him in that way. But overall today, I thought he did okay. In terms of Twine, I'm not sure he added much today, to be honest. The game, obviously, it didn't do anything that you were like, wow, what a move, what a pass. Whereas when Bird was on the pitch, and obviously Earthy playing there as well, they constantly feel like a threat, looking for holes, looking for spaces, feeding off of each other. Whereas I felt when Twine came on, it was more pedestrian. The game had gone that way, and he kind of walked into a game that didn't necessarily suit his game script, shall we say. But I don't think he particularly contributed much once he came on, to be honest.
No, somebody's put up there, Dharma's put on the text feed, Twine and Bell together. Nightmare day. Steve, City did finish the side stronger without looking really threatening. Wells put Mehmeti through, but he was slow with his feet. Bell had that header that the keeper made a meal of it, palming it away. It probably wasn't going to go in. And then Naki Wells, who's been turning back the years of late, picked up on a loose ball, but he couldn't get enough bend to get it over the line. Do you think if City had got a goal then, on the balance, they would have just about deserved the 3 points because they didn't get, after that opening 25 and a couple of breakaways, pretty much in control without looking great?
Well, to turn it around, if QPR had won that, I would have thought that City would rightly feel robbed. Whether City had done enough to win I would say, was a moot point.
What do you think on that, Dave?
What I felt was something was interesting, and I'm curious of your thoughts. We have two attacking midfield players in Mehmeti and Earthy that kind of play in a similar position, and both of them are momentum players. Both of them need game time. Both of them need to feel like the A-man in the side. How do you get that from both of them? Because Earthy today is really, really sharp. Look at the goal he took. Half a yard, found it himself, bang, goal, thank you very much. Mehmeti presented with the same opportunity. Mehmeti of 6 months ago probably scores there. Today, it's a good first touch, a poor second touch, another touch, jumping around, that moment's gone. It's like he's lost that piece of magic that he had because he's not playing regularly and he's not the guy anymore. Earthy's that guy, and I think it's something that Manning has to find a way to make both of them feel like they're the man, or one of them's going to have to pay the price, and we back one, because they are both very much momentum players in the way that Bird is not. You can put Bird in anywhere you like, centre midfield, attacking midfield, and he will do his job and he will do it well. He's like a Rolls Royce of a better player. He makes everybody around him better. He makes everybody fluid, whereas Mehmeti and Earthy are slightly different. They need to feel like they are the guy and everything's going through them. And you saw the difference between them in that one shot of a moment, because when you're an attacking midfielder, that's what you get sometimes. One moment on goal. Earthy scores, Mehmeti doesn't even get a shot off.
If you had to pick a man of the match rest today, Dave, who would that be? Put in a good shift.
Oh, that's a difficult question. I have to say I would probably give the man of the match to Bird, because I thought he was always looking to ask a question. He was always looking to get the ball on the turn. He didn't necessarily have his best performance today, but he was the reason we scored with the imagination. And I also think he was part of what was good about us trying to go forward. And we weren't better when he went off the pitch. So I would give it to him. But I would say, no, I wouldn't say anybody was poor today, but I also wouldn't say anybody was great today.
No, that's fair. Not going to ask you the same question, Steve, because you don't know the players. But what I would say is, you're watching Thatcham last week and you're watching City, okay, on screen today. What's the biggest difference between the two games of football? Is it speed, fitness, both, skill?
I would say the passing in the higher leagues is much, much more clinical than the passing is in the lower leagues. That's not to say that they always pass well. There have been some pretty crap passes this afternoon. But I would say generally it's the accuracy of the passes. The fitness definitely tells as well.
And do you look at any of the Thatcham players and think there's a player in there that maybe through lack of motivation or career comes first that you think he could have been a player at some point?
Well, I think part of the trouble is the guys, they're not earning enough money, so they have to have a proper job at the same time. Thatcham Town in particular, they've got 7 games in Devon or Cornwall. Now, if you've got a guy that's trying to earn a living doing something else, to expect him to go a 4-hour journey there and a 4-hour journey back on a Tuesday night is a bit of a stretch. So the manager is really quite limited on who can actually get to play
because of those work commitments that they have. No, that's interesting. So, Dave, onward to Good Friday. But before then, there's a fixture before then. It's Hull versus Coventry on Monday night. All eyes are going to be on the MKM Stadium, is it, up there? We want that to be a draw, really, don't we?
Coventry not winning would probably do us a favour. At the end of the day, even if Coventry win, we're still clear by 4 points. We are in a position where it's about what we do now. We've got 2 big home games, 2 tough away games. But the way we've been playing, what is it now? In the last 10 games, I think we've only lost to Burnley, picking up points. How many games can you say recently where we were lucky there, we were fortunate to get a point? There aren't too many. Even today, the first 25 minutes is the worst I've seen us play in ages. but a game is 90 minutes and we finished it the better team. To not finish in the playoffs from here would be a footballing travesty. This team deserves to finish in the playoffs for what they've done in the last 10 or so games and for the football that they've been playing. It's been enjoyable. Sometimes when you're chasing, it's fun, it's enjoyable, but when you are the hunted, you tighten up a bit. I don't want to see this team do this. I want to see this team playing the same progressive brand that they are currently playing and showing that we are better than other teams. You know, Sunderland, there is nothing to fear. Going away to Luton are fighting for their lives. So what? Leeds, nobody wins there. We've shown what we can do away to the best sides. We're not going to win every game, but being 4 points clear with 4 games to go, the playoffs are yours for the taking. Just do what you need to do.
I would think it's definitely yours to lose. I don't think you need to be relying on other teams to play badly. If you don't get through the playoffs, you want shooting, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, when it's 4, you can say you can really do the prediction and say probably 2 wins is going to be enough. And if you're going to pick the 2 wins, you'd say I don't know. You might say Luton away and Preston on the last day, and that's saying draw against Sunderland and lose at Leeds. You know, you're down into that various combinations, but there's a lot of dog-eat-dog games going on as well. I mean, if you look next Friday up in the Midlands.
Remember, the last game of the season, Coventry got Middlesbrough.
And next weekend, West Brom are at home to Coventry. So you've got 2 games there that if both of those end up being draws, or whoever wins will knock the other one out. Yeah. If we get something against Sunderland and Leeds, it's a bonus. We should get something against Luton and Preston. Knowing us, it'll probably be the other way around.
I genuinely think with 4 games to go, 70 points 100% makes it. 68, I would be surprised if it doesn't, because they've all got to play each other. It's not like they're all playing teams near the bottom. One of them might well go on a run, but they've all got to play each other. So they're going to drop points somewhere. I think a win in the draw from the next 4 is enough, but 1 game at a time. The next game is Sunderland. Win that, fantastic. Don't win it, on to the next one.
That's right. That's absolutely right. Don't win. Well, even lose to Sunderland, we're still very much in it because we've got that point. Because we're 4 points clear of 7th.
And if we were going back to earlier in the season, I was always saying because we haven't won this game, we're going to pay a price somewhere. Now we've earned the right to make a mistake. That means that you can play with flexibility and freedom. You know, this Sunderland game, people were looking at it. I remember going back and Paul Binning, I think, Exiled Robin, make a good point in November. We've got some easy fixtures, easy coming up. We need to be in the playoffs by mid-February because then it gets tough. Well, boy, have we passed this test with flying colours when it's tough so far. I don't know what more we can possibly do. You know, it's been a pleasure to watch the progression of this side.
No, most definitely. Steve, you talked about the second spell under McDermott getting humped every week. I mean, you've had 2 periods, Reading, I know you're Thatcher now, but Reading have had 2 periods in the top flight in the last 25 years. Yeah. We haven't had one in the last 40. When they were getting beaten every week, were they in games at all, and you were sort of reveling in the fact that you were seeing the top players at whatever you call your stadium these days, or did it just become a little bit depressing? And the key thing on the final whistle was to get away before the traffic. Yeah. So I've done that with you a few times over the years.
Yeah, I mean, it gets depressing. Seeing your team get walloped every week is depressing. And I think part of the and I know maybe this is a bit sort of technophobic. In 2005-06, there wasn't as much TV footage for people to watch. So when Reading got promoted, they didn't have loads and loads and loads of TV stuff to review. But the following season they did, because they'd seen them play in the Premiership a lot. And the second time they went up, the TV coverage was everywhere. And so everybody could see what they were going to do. And like I said, they lost a lot of decent players. They were playing with a reasonably different non-established team when they went up, and that's why they lost.
And 2 very different managers, because Steve Coppell and Brian McDermott. I mean, if you compare, you know, who Liam Manning's up against, you look at managers like Tony Mowbray and Frank Lampard. What was it that, if those 2 promotions up to the Premier League, what was the difference between? Was it a bigger achievement going up under McDermott than it was under Coppell?
Yeah, but I think what was interesting is the support that the fans had for Koppel. Because usually, if you get relegated, everyone wants your head. They want you out. Koppel said, well, I've got to go. I was the manager, so I've got to take responsibility for that. And there were almost riots outside the stadium begging him to stay after they'd been relegated. And that's not to say Brian McDermott didn't get support. He did, but nothing like
So when you went up under Koppel, you went up one season,
2 seasons.
2 seasons, and came down,
After
and he
7
fell on
seasons.
his sword.
Yeah.
Yeah, a bit like he did after 3 games with us.
If I allow myself to get carried away and we go to Wembley, we get our promotion, and we are facing this world. I don't want to talk about this, but I'm going to allow myself the courtesy, okay? It doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to get tonked out of sight straight away, because yes, it's harder when you go off as a playoff side. But take a look at the Premier League at the moment. Brighton, Bournemouth, Brentford, Crystal Palace, Wolves, all going to be in the Premier League next season. All were playing in our division within the last 10 years at some point. Just because you go up, yes, you might go back down. But step one to staying there is to at least be a yo-yo. Because after a while, a yo-yo sticks in your hand. This can't be the dream and then it's, we've achieved it. No, this is phase one. Getting up, getting to the playoffs, being a playoff side. And sometimes you've got to grab it, because just because you make the playoffs doesn't necessarily mean you'll get there again. I remember in 2008 thinking, wow, this side is amazing. Just think what's going to happen. And then we spent years so close, so close, so close. But just because we get up doesn't mean we're going to be the worst side. It will test the squad. It will test the hirings they make. It will test the management to whole new ways. But it will be a new Bristol City because of it.
Do you think, though, Dave, that it's this season? It has to be this season, because next season, with people are going to be sniffing around our manager, sniffing around people like Knight and things like that. Can we if we fail this season, can we go again in 25-26, which will be the 50th anniversary of the last season that we went up?
It's in football nowadays, it's always this season. Like you said, I personally don't think the manager will be here at the end of next season, either way, because of the success he's having. People will notice. I think somebody will go for him at some point. Knight, as has been spoken about, genuinely Bird. I think Bird is somehow both admired and underrated. People don't necessarily appreciate a genius that he is on the ball. Supposedly, Knight plays the role of the centre midfielder. He does that. Supposedly, Twine is the attacking midfielder. He does that. We all know how great he is, and yet he's so underrated. I don't see. Maybe there's a chance he's not here next season. We've got contracts. I think it's Bird and Knight are 2 years on the contract. If you don't,
I think there's only 1 or 2 this season, this summer, that are critical. But what you don't want to be doing is getting to next summer when you've got to do all the negotiation, and we don't know.
Nick Hamlin has just made the point perfectly. You do not have the luxury of choosing when you mount a promotion challenge. There is no guarantee you will build on it next season. Naki Wells will be 1 year older. Where are the guarantees that you will get another striker in? We tried it last year and we got it wrong twice. You don't know who's going to leave. You don't know who's going to get injured. There are so many things that go together. Ultimately, the chance is here and now. Take it.
Yeah, no, I agree. All righty. Look, we've come to the end of this particular episode of Forever Bristol City. We'll be reporting or doing our thing on Sunderland on Saturday morning. That's right, because it's a 3 o'clock kickoff on Good Friday at Ashton Gate, isn't it? So you'll be back for that one day, won't you? Yeah?
I will indeed. I will indeed.
Steve, delighted to have you on. We're going to go off and enjoy a few glasses of something or another, and I expect you're going to do the same as well, Dave. Thanks to everybody that's tuned in while we've been recording this live, and everybody who listens on the podcast platforms during the week. Thanks for your support doing that as well. All the best, everybody. Goodbye.